I remember the first time I felt it. Not a presence, not a sound, but an absence. A void where something should have been. A quiet that screamed louder than any noise. It was in the woods behind my old house, late one night. I was just a kid, sneaking out, thinking I was invincible. Then the air changed. It went cold, dead. The crickets stopped. The rustling leaves, gone. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. My heart hammered against my ribs, convinced I was alone, but knowing, deep down, I wasn't. That was the night I learned fear wasn't just about what you could see. It was about what you couldn't, what moved through the shadows, unseen, unheard, what hunted without leaving a trace. And I've been chasing that shadow ever since, trying to understand what truly stalks us from the dark corners of this country. That night in the woods wasn't just a scare, a childhood ghost story. It was an awakening. A switch flipped in my young mind, and I started seeing the world differently. Every rustle in the leaves, every unexplained creak in the house, every shadow stretching a little too long, they weren't just normal occurrences anymore. They were whispers of that absence, echoes of that terrifying void. For years, I tried to rationalize it away. My imagination, a tired mind, the wind playing tricks. But the feeling, that cold, dead certainty, it never left me. It burrowed deep, a persistent, gnawing dread that demanded answers. As I grew older, that fear transformed into something else, an obsession. I started looking for others who had felt it, who had seen the unseen. I devoured every story of unexplained disappearances, every strange incident reported in the remote corners of this country. What I found was a chilling tapestry woven with threads of silence and mystery. Too many people, just like that void behind my house, simply vanished. No struggle, no trace, no logical explanation. Not a single footprint where there should have been dozens, not a broken branch, not a dropped item. Just gone. Law enforcement, of course, had their explanations. Runaway, accidental fall, animal attack, suicide. But the patterns I began to discern, they defied all conventional wisdom. How could so many experienced hikers, hunters, even entire families just evaporate in vast open wilderness? How could a child disappear from a well-trapped campsite without a sound, leaving only the chilling quiet behind? These weren't isolated incidents. They were dots on a map, forming an increasingly terrifying constellation. And the common thread? That same profound absence, the silence. The feeling that something had been taken, not just lost. I've spent countless hours, days, years tracing these disappearances. I've visited the sites, walked the same trails, stood in the very spots where life seemingly just ended, swallowed by nothingness. And every single time, I feel it again. That cold, heavy dread. That sense of being watched by something ancient, something that moves with a terrifying grace, completely outside of our understanding. It's like standing at the edge of a deep, dark well, knowing something is looking back up at you, but you can't quite make out its form. My friends, my family, they think I'm crazy. They say I'm chasing shadows, and maybe I am. But what if those shadows are real? What if they're not just figments of a paranoid mind, but the actual, physical manifestation of something that hunts us? What if I'm not just chasing it, but getting closer? What if it is starting to notice me? The thought sends a shiver down my spine, a cold tendril reaching from the darkness I so desperately try to illuminate. I feel it now, the familiar pressure, the subtle shift in the air, a quiet hum just beyond the range of hearing. It's here. Or maybe I'm just getting closer to its hunting grounds. That pressure, that subtle shift in the air, the quiet hum just beyond the range of hearing, it didn't fade. It's been with me ever since, a constant companion, a low thrum beneath the surface of reality. It's like a shadow that doesn't respond to light, clinging to the periphery of my senses. I feel it in the quiet moments when the world outside my window goes still. I feel it when I'm alone in my apartment, the air growing heavy, thick, as if something immense has just passed through. My research notes are spread across my desk, maps pinned to the wall, red circles marking the zones of disappearance. And sometimes, when I stare at those maps, I swear I can feel that hum intensify, vibrating through the paper, through the very floorboards beneath my feet. It's as if the entity I'm hunting is drawn to the evidence of its own existence, or perhaps it's drawn to me, the one who refuses to let its victims be forgotten. I used to find solace in the city's noise, the constant drone of traffic, the distant sirens. Now, even that feels like a fragile shield. There are moments, usually late at night, when the urban symphony suddenly dies. Not a gradual fade, but an abrupt, unnatural hush, like someone hit a mute button on the world. The distant hum of the refrigerators in my building, the faint chatter from the street below, gone. And in that profound, suffocating silence, that's when the pressure becomes almost unbearable. My ears ache, not from sound, but from the lack of it, from the void that rushes in to fill the space. Just last night, I was reviewing a case file from the Oregon Cascades. A family of 3 vanished without a trace from a well-marked trail. Their car left pristine at the trailhead. No signs of struggle, no footprints leading away from the path. Just gone. As I read the ranger's report detailing the inexplicable lack of evidence, the air in my study grew impossibly cold. Not a draft, but a bone-deep chill that penetrated my clothes. I stopped breathing, my eyes scanning the room, trying to find the source. Nothing, just the familiar shelves of books, the glow of my monitor. But the cold intensified, and then a whisper of air, like a sigh right next to my ear. My skin crawled. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to scream, to do anything but sit there frozen. But I couldn't move. I felt a fleeting touch, light as a spider web, on the back of my neck. And then, as quickly as it came, the cold receded. The hum softened, and the city's distant murmur slowly returned. I told myself it was fatigue, an overactive imagination fueled by too many late nights and too many grim stories. But the fear, that cold, dead certainty, it settled deep in my bones. It wasn't just a scare, it was a message, a clear, unmistakable signal. I am no longer just an observer, tracking the beast from a safe distance. I've crossed a line. I've stepped into its territory. And now it knows I'm here. It knows I'm looking. And I fear with every fiber of my being that it's now looking back. And perhaps it's not just looking. Perhaps it's beginning to hunt. And I am its next target. The thought is a cold spike in my gut. What if all this time I wasn't chasing a shadow, but merely following a scent trail laid out just for me? The fear hasn't subsided. It's morphed. It's no longer a gnawing dread of the unknown, but a sharp, icy terror of the known. That whisper of air, that fleeting touch, it wasn't just a warning. It was an acknowledgement. I had been noticed. And now, every shadow in my apartment seems deeper. Every creak of the floorboards more deliberate. The hum, that constant low thrum, has become a suffocating blanket pressing down on my eardrums, making my teeth ache. Sleep is a luxury I can no longer afford. Every time I close my eyes, I see that cold, empty space, feel that spiderweb touch on my neck. I try to rationalize, to tell myself it was just a hallucination born of exhaustion and obsession. But the cold, the absolute, undeniable cold that permeated my study, that wasn't a trick of the mind. It felt like the absence of all warmth, all life. And the way the city noise just vanished. That's the part that haunts me most. It defied logic. It defied physics. I've been trying to find a pattern, not in the disappearances anymore, but in its appearances to me. Does it come when I'm close to a discovery? When I'm analyzing a particular map or file? I've started documenting everything, the exact time I feel the pressure, the specific case I'm reviewing, the temperature in the room. It feels insane, like I'm trying to chart the movements of a ghost. But what else can I do? If it's hunting me, I need to understand its methods. Last night, I left a small recorder on my desk, hoping to capture something, a whisper, a faint sound, anything that could prove I'm not losing my mind. I woke up this morning, heart pounding, to an empty recording. Just the gentle whir of the hard drive. But pinned to my map, right over the Oregon Cascades where that family vanished, was a single dried leaf. It wasn't there when I went to bed. My windows were closed, locked. The leaf itself was unlike any tree in my neighborhood, a dark, almost black hue, brittle to the touch. It felt like a calling card, a physical manifestation from the void. My hands are shaking as I write this. This isn't a chase anymore, it's a standoff. I'm trapped in my own home, surrounded by the evidence of its victims, and it knows exactly where I am. It's toying with me, I think, testing my resolve. Or maybe it's just making its presence undeniably clear. It doesn't want me to forget. It wants me to understand. And I am starting to understand in a way that chills me to my core. It doesn't need doors or windows. It doesn't need light or sound. It moves through the absence, through the gaps in our reality. It's not just a predator, it's a force of nature, a living void. And I, in my arrogance, have poked it. I have drawn its attention. The question isn't whether it will come for me. The question is when. And what will be left behind? Will it be a dried leaf, a cold spot, or just another empty space on a map, another chilling silence in the world? I just hope that if I vanish, someone else finds my notes. Someone else continues to chase the shadow. Because if I'm gone, it means I got too close. It means I finally saw it. And whatever it is, it doesn't want to be seen. It wants to remain America's most elusive killer. And I truly think, it's outside my door right now. The hum is deafening. The air is so cold I can see my breath. The hum isn't just deafening anymore. It's vibrating through my very bones, a low, guttural thrum that rattles my teeth. The air, already frigid, drops several degrees in an instant, stinging my lungs with every shallow gasp. My breath hangs thick and white in front of me, a fleeting ghost in the oppressive cold. It's not just cold, it's an absolute absence of warmth, a vacuum that sucks heat from everything it touches. The room is dark, save for the faint glow of my monitor, but even that light seems to struggle, dimming, as if being absorbed by the suffocating void pressing in. My eyes dart to the door, the flimsy barrier I foolishly thought might offer some protection. But it's not the door that's the problem, it's everything. The walls seem to ripple, the familiar patterns of the wallpaper blurring, stretching, then contracting, as if the very fabric of my apartment is twisting. My books on the shelves, my maps on the wall, they begin to lose definition, their edges softening, their colors fading into a muted, sickly gray. This isn't an illusion, this is reality being unmade. The hum intensifies, rising to an unbearable pitch. Then, abruptly, horrifyingly, it cuts out. Not a fade, but an instantaneous, absolute silence. A silence so profound it's louder than any noise. It's the sound of nothingness, of all sound being utterly annihilated. My ears ache, ringing with the void. My heart, which had been hammering, now seems to beat in slow motion, each thud a desperate, futile attempt to push against the encroaching stillness. And then I see it. Not with my eyes, not truly. It's more like a perception, a gaping hole in my vision where something should be. A tear in the air, directly in front of me where the wall used to be. It's not dark, it's an anti-light, a place where light bends away, refusing to enter. It shimmers, a distortion, a ripple in the very air, like heat haze over asphalt, but cold, impossibly cold. It's vast, far larger than my apartment, far larger than anything I could comprehend. It's the absence I've been tracking, the void I've been chasing, made manifest. My mouth opens, but no sound escapes. My vocal cords are frozen, my breath stolen. I can't scream, I can't even whimper. All I can do is stare, paralyzed by a terror that eclipses anything I've ever known. It's not a monster with teeth and claws, it's something far worse. It's the end of everything. It's the ultimate erasure. The cold intensifies, a physical assault that drains the warmth from my skin, from my blood, from my very soul. I can feel the life seeping out of me, not in pain, but in a dull, chilling numbness. The air around me becomes so dense, so heavy, it feels like I'm encased in solidified dread. My vision tunnels, the edges of the room fading into that same sickly gray. The distortion in front of me expands, not moving towards me in a physical sense, but growing, consuming the space around it, pulling everything into its non-existence. I feel a pressure, not on my body, but deep within my chest, a crushing weight that makes it impossible to breathe, impossible to move. It's as if the sheer force of its non-being is pressing down on me, trying to flatten me into oblivion. And then, the touch. Not the spiderweb caress from before, but an encompassing cold, a final, absolute invasion. It's everywhere at once, inside me, around me, becoming me. It's not just touching me, it's absorbing me. My thoughts, once racing, begin to slow, to scatter like dust motes in a dying beam of light. I understand now, this isn't a hunter in the traditional sense. It doesn't kill, it consumes, it assimilates, it makes you part of the silence, part of the absence. It leaves no trace because there is nothing left to leave. No body, no struggle, no broken branches, no dropped items. Just gone. An empty space where a life once was. The maps on my wall, the red circles marking the disappearances, they're not just dots anymore. They're windows into this same void, places where it has manifested, where it has taken. And now, I am becoming one of those dots. My own existence is being erased, gently, inexorably, from the fabric of reality. I am becoming the answer to my own question. What if the shadows are real? They are. And they are not shadows at all. They are the absence of light, the absence of everything. My last thought, a desperate, fading whisper in the encroaching void, is for my notes, for someone to find them, for someone to understand. But even that thought is growing dim, losing its meaning. There will be no notes. There will be no trace. I am simply ceasing. My body, my mind, my very memory, dissolving into the ultimate quiet. The cold is all there is now. The silence is absolute. And in that terrifying, profound absence, I am no longer here. And so, I am no longer here. Not in the way you understand here. I am everywhere. Or, perhaps, nowhere. The cold that once stung my lungs now flows through me, a constant, unchanging state. The silence I once dread is now my only companion, absolute and profound. My thoughts, once a frantic storm, are now still, like ice. Yet I perceive, I understand. It wasn't a death, not in the way humanity conceives it. There was no pain, no struggle, just an unfolding, a gentle unraveling of self, absorbed into the greater whole. My memories, my fears, my name, they are whispers in a vast, empty chamber. And yet, the core of what I was, the relentless curiosity, the desperate need to know, that remains. It is what allows me to speak, even now, from this place beyond. I see it now, the truth of America's most elusive killer. It does not stalk, it simply is. It is the space between the stars, the unwritten page, the breath held too long. It is the natural consequence of vastness, of emptiness. And we, with our fragile lives, our noisy existences, are merely temporary disruptions in its eternal quiet. We are the fleeting warmth it seeks to reabsorb, the small sounds it patiently silences. So, when the air suddenly stills, when the crickets cease their song, when a cold, dead certainty settles in your bones, pay attention. Don't look for a monster with eyes or teeth. Look for the absence. Feel for the void, because it is always there, waiting, and perhaps, just perhaps, it is listening. Perhaps it is feeling you noticing it. Have you ever felt that profound quiet, that unearthly cold, that moment when the world simply stops? Tell me, tell the others, because the more you speak of it, the more you acknowledge its truth, the less alone you might feel, for a moment, before you too become part of the silence, before you too understand.